Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1681. Shawn, come on, do me this favor. Joe softened his tone. I won't say much more. You know what I mean, right? Shawn stared at him. Are you really planning to pursue Summer? Well, don't beat around the bush. I want a straight answer. Joe pursed his lips. Why these questions? Anyway, you're already living happily ever after, so why would you care about my personal matters? He was jealous of Shawn. With a wife, son, and daughter, Shawn was winning in life. Working during the day, enjoying family time in the evening, and on weekends, his life was practically a fairy tale. Shawn replied, if you're serious about pursuing Summer, then come up with a plan. Be open about it. Let everyone know you're pursuing her. No more hints, no more holding back. Why? What if she rejects me? That'd be so embarrassing. Shawn countered, is your pride more important, or is having her as your partner more important? Joe fell silent. I'm speaking from experience. I've been through it all, the blood and tears. I've learned from my own experiences, so listen up. You've effortlessly gained what I've worked hard for. Pay attention. Hey, as if I didn't help you when you pursued Gale. Shawn, you can't just abandon me now. It's my turn, and you have to help me. Was it not natural for brothers to help each other? Was Shawn ignoring him now? That would not do. I am helping, aren't I? Shawn replied. Oh, really? Joe exclaimed as if he had heard something new. What help? You're reluctant to even go into the restaurant. I will go in, but before that, let's clarify some things, Shawn said, hands in his pockets, towering over Joe. They both looked handsome and charismatic, standing by the street and attracting the attention of passers-by. Young girls could not resist secretly taking photos of them with their phones. However, they were used to it. Joe's mind was now in turmoil. Under normal circumstances, he would whistle at the passing girls and watch them blush and run away playfully. However, Joe had more important matters to attend to. Okay. He leaned on the car door and looked at Shawn. Continue. You still haven't answered my question. Are you going to pursue Summer? Of course, can't you tell? It's just that I find it hard to openly pursue her. Joe was afraid of losing his dignity if he failed. He also disliked being too flashy. Despite his carefree appearance, he was quite conservative and traditional. Moreover, he was worried that an overly aggressive pursuit would scare Summer away. Shawn chuckled. What are you worried about? I understand. I've been there. Given your current situation with Summer, it's the perfect time for you to make a bold move. Being too restrained or subtle will only waste time and might even backfire. Why? At this stage, Summer knows you like her, but she's unsure how to respond, so she plays dumb. Not only does she act clueless, but once she senses your feelings for her, she'll think she's imagining things. She doesn't dare to think whether she likes you back. She's more afraid that her love is unrequited. You've never clearly and openly said that you love her. Chapter 1682. Upon hearing this, Joe's expression changed. He stroked his chin. There's some truth to that. He and Summer had indeed progressed from friendship to something more, but it seemed they were still one step away from a relationship. During their time away, they spent almost every moment together. The roads on the construction site were rough. He had helped her, held her hand, and even carried her at times. Yet, their relationship remained stagnant. Shawn pointed out bluntly, are you waiting for Summer to confess her feelings to you? How could that be? I dare not even think about it. With Summer's personality, if she were to confess first, it would be like the sun rising from the west. She appeared straightforward and open, but that was in work and friendship. She was hesitant and not as courageous as Gale when it came to love. Summer was just direct on paper. Shawn patted his shoulder. Do you know what to do now? Joe frowned. Let me think it over. Don't rush me. Truth be told, Shawn had convinced him. It made sense. The man often takes the lead. But if you keep thinking, she might slip away. It's thanks to Summer's tough demeanor. If she were the type to express her feelings openly, someone else would have beaten you to it already. How could you still take more time to think things over? Shawn said coldly. Joe stood his ground confidently. It means our bond is destined, and no one else can interfere. Shawn scoffed. At this point, Joe was still being stubborn. However, if he really thought about it, Joe's argument was not entirely baseless. Maybe they were indeed destined for each other. That was why, no matter how they circled around, they remained entwined. Who spends so many years in ambiguity? I've said what I had to. Figure the rest yourself. If that doesn't work, then I can't help. You'll just be a lifelong bachelor. Hey, am I that pathetic? Yes. Joe was unconvinced. He lacked experience. What was Shawn's deal anyway? Joe remembered vividly how awkward Shawn was with Gale back then. Shawn only got to where he was today because he had done one thing right. He got married. Once that certificate was signed, she was his. As long as they did not divorce, there would always be a chance to spend time together and nurture their relationship. Shawn strode toward the restaurant. I even sent her away, deliberately upsetting her, just to give you 2 more times together. She was unfamiliar with her surroundings in a foreign country and had to rely on you. But look at you now. After coming back, you're still the same. There was simply no progress. At least, Shawn thought, they should have advanced their relationship. Well, he had thought too much. Summer did not even invite Joe to dinner. What was Joe even doing? There was still no progress after all this time and having such a rare opportunity to live and work together in a distant place. What a waste of his sincere efforts. We've laid a solid foundation for our relationship over this past month. You wouldn't understand. You've never been in love. You don't know that this phase of the relationship is actually the most wonderful time. Joe said. He knew what Shawn was thinking and blurted it out first. Chapter 1683. Shawn glanced at him. I think the most wonderful time is when you finally get her. It was not what Joe described at all. The ambiguous phase was when they were unsure of each other's feelings. You'll only understand once you're in a relationship. Joe shrugged. You went straight to marriage, so of course, you won't experience that feeling. Well, don't envy me too much for being able to marry in one go. Joe was speechless. Inside the restaurant, the aroma of food filled the air. This famous old restaurant had been open for over 10 years. It was renowned far and wide and attracted a steady stream of customers every day. Gale and Summer had been coming to this place since their college days. After eating all sorts of instant food from convenience stores while she was away, Summer craved a freshly cooked dinner and specifically requested to come here. Shawn scanned the familiar faces around. Soon, he spotted Gale sitting by the window. There were several beer bottles on the table. He furrowed his brow. Drinking? Gale had not noticed him at all. She was deeply engrossed in her conversation with Summer, and with a little alcohol in her, she was animated, gesturing wildly with her hands, her facial expressions vivid. Summer, on the other hand, was even more unrestrained, rolling up her sleeves almost to her shoulders, and chugging from the beer bottle. In the short time since Shawn and Joe entered, Shawn had watched her finish a whole bottle. Your partner has quite the alcohol tolerance, drinking straight from the bottle, Shawn remarked. Yours isn't too shabby either. She knows her limits. Joe cut in, don't be fooled by the 2 beer bottles on Gale's table. Who knows how much they've already drunk and how many rounds they've had. The bottles were probably removed a long time ago. Shawn's expression turned cold. As Gale was talking, she suddenly felt a chilling sensation at her back. It seemed like a sharp gaze was fixated on her, making her extremely uncomfortable. Before Gale could turn around to look, Summer exclaimed excitedly, Look, your husband's here. What? Gale was startled. Shawn arrived? How could he be here? Oh no, if she had known earlier, she would have had the waiter remove the beer bottles. Why was Summer still laughing? Your husband is so handsome. Summer burst into laughter. Many girls are looking at him. Gale, although I'm not entirely satisfied with him, since he's not really that great, he really does look flawless. Gale did not dare to turn her head, feeling her neck prickle with anxiety. Before she came, Shawn reminded her not to drink. She deserved to be scolded. Oh, how would she have known that Shawn would suddenly appear? Wait, how did Shawn know she was here? As she was pondering, she felt a hand gently rest on her neck from behind. Gale. Shawn's voice was magnetic and deep. Gale took a deep breath, adjusted her expression, and turned around with a smile. Oh, Shawn, are you here to take me home? I was just about to call you. Shawn raised an eyebrow. Did you forget our agreement from earlier? No, I remember. Gale shifted the blame to Summer. She's the one who drank all this alcohol. She couldn't handle it anymore, so she passed it over to me. Do you think I believe that? Chapter 1684. He. Joe sat down beside Summer. Gale realized that Joe was also there. So, it had to mean that he was the one to bring Shawn here. Summer was not drunk, but she was definitely tipsy. The alcohol was getting to her, making her a bit excited and carefree. She slapped his shoulder heartily. Joe, my man, didn't expect you to show up in the end. Too bad Gale and I are already done eating. How about we grab a couple of beers? You're quite something, Summer, going straight for the alcohol? Just a little treat, just a little treat. You and Mr. Wood must have finished eating too, so let's have a drink together to liven things up, Summer replied. Joe looked at her flushed face and the scent of alcohol in her breath, wrinkling his brows in resignation. He did not dislike her alcohol breath. In fact, he found it quite pleasant. Come on. Waiter, bring another crate of alcohol. Summer called out. Sure thing. This alcohol is nice. Gale and I always have a couple of glasses each time. Upon hearing this, Gale was already facepalming. Summer needed to shut up. What could she expect from someone who was half drunk? Every time? Even tonight? Shawn asked. Summer nodded. Of course, Mr. Wood. Don't you understand what every time means? When Gale and I were studying, we'd hiccup. She had not finished her sentence when suddenly she hiccuped. It seemed she had quite a bit to drink. I only had a few sips. Really, Shawn, look, my eyes are clear, my mind is sharp, my face is just a little red, that's all. No matter how little I drink, my face always turns red. If they tested me for drunk driving right now, the breathalyzer wouldn't even beep. Gale tried to explain. Shawn snorted coldly. Gale took hold of his arm. I couldn't let Summer drink alone, could I? After all, we've been apart for so long. There's so much we need to catch up on. Still, Shawn remained cold. Why was married life different from what she imagined? She was mostly happy and content, but why did men behave differently in marriage than they did before? In the past, it was Shawn who pampered her and accommodated her in every way. She thought now he would behave even better, but it turned out to be the complete opposite. Now, she had to be the one to behave better. Gale felt her freedom was severely restricted. From small things like what to wear to big things like whom to meet, Shawn wanted to manage everything. However, she did drink, and she promised him she would not. She was in the wrong first. She could not just throw a tantrum for no reason. Sigh. After some thought, Gale had to change the subject. Why are you here? Weren't you supposed to have dinner with the people from the agency tonight? How did the Ivy situation go? It's almost sorted. You came straight here after dinner? What about Joe? What's he doing here? Gale asked. I met him at the door. With that said, Gale immediately understood. So, Joe had been waiting outside all along. He was not with Shawn. Chapter 1685. It seemed like Joe had set his sights on Summer. How nice, we can go home together. I knew it. Even without me tonight, you'd still be able to handle Ivy's issue. Gale leaned on Shawn's shoulder. Shawn wrapped his arm around her waist. You stood her up. Ivy was asking why you weren't there. Gale's eyes brightened. Is she really eager to see me? Wow. This kind of beautiful female friendship really warms my heart. Gale felt she helped the right person. Someday, I'll introduce Ivy and Summer to each other. Who wouldn't like such a cool chick? Gale said. Shawn toyed with his wine glass, speaking softly. Why don't you ask me how I resolved Ivy's contract issue? You surely have your ways. I trust you completely. Yeah, trust to the extent you can drink without a care in the world. He was networking, forced to drink, and compelled to attend dinners he would not even attend at all. He did all of this for her. And her? She was having a blast, leaving him in the dust. Gale, feeling guilty, did not dare to interject. Meanwhile, Summer continued pouring drinks for everyone, for brimming cups in total. Come on, everyone gets one. Summer placed a glass in front of each of them. You're here, you drink. If not, you can't leave. Honor my friendship. Drink up. Drink with gusto. Gale waved her hand. No, Summer. I can't drink, you know that. Shawn was here. She at least had to pretend. Who knew? What are you pretending for? Summer shoved the glass into her hand. You were drinking so much just now, and now you're acting all innocent? Cut the act. Gale was speechless. With Summer around, she could not possibly shake off drinking. She decided to give in. Mr. Wood, drink up. I'm handing over my best friend to you. May you both live happily ever after. Love her, pamper her, respect her, whether she's right or wrong, always indulge her. When she's right, listen to her. When she's wrong, she's right. Summer beckoned. Gale felt relieved. Finally, Summer said something sensible. Did you hear that? She looked at Shawn. When she's wrong, she's right. Shawn smirked, but did not reply. With this toast, I wish you both a lifetime of happiness. Summer raised her glass. Whatever other women have, Gale also needs to have. It has to be better than anyone else's. Summer usually dared not speak up in front of Shawn. Now, with Gale here and Joe backing her up and having had some drinks, she had the courage to speak up. Let me tell you, if you ever do anything to upset our Gale here, I will support her in leaving you and taking the 2 kids with her, so you'll never find them. How much has she suffered for you? Do you know how painful childbirth is? Have you experienced it? Then raising 2 kids alone, I truly admire her. She didn't contact me for 4 years. She even kept it from me. Summer shook her head repeatedly. See, how ruthless this woman's heart is, it's too ruthless. Shawn listened intently. Don't take it to heart. Gale quietly tugged at his sleeve. She likes to blabber a lot when she's drunk, but forgets it all the next day when she wakes up. Chapter 1686. She's right. Shawn reached out and took her hand, gently caressing it. Summer's drink was already empty, and she swiftly poured herself another glass, continuing, I know you men, especially high-quality men like you. She pointed at Shawn, paused, then moved her hand as if to point at Joe, but stopped midway. Tall, rich, and handsome, you've got all 3 qualities. Women flock to you in droves. Even if you don't want them to, they keep coming, thinking they might be the lucky ones to catch your eye. You can resist temptation today, but what about tomorrow? The year after? 10 years from now? If you're married, you should uphold your values and cherish your wife. Don't look at foxy women. Loving your wife brings you good fortune, you know? Shawn's serious expression from earlier had softened. In fact, he even wore a faint smile. Summer's words were not directed at him, they were clearly aimed at Joe. It must also be Summer's true concerns. Joe was also a well-known tall, rich, and handsome man in Sea City. Countless women wanted to be the one by his side. Where would his heart ultimately settle? Who would be his final destination? Shawn looked at Joe, a look that said, what I said outside was right, wasn't it? Joe also caught the meaning behind Summer's words, but remained silent. He did not know what to say, and besides, even if he spoke up now, Summer might forget about it once she sobered up. Suddenly, Summer slammed the table hard. Are you listening to me? Why is no one saying anything? You're all so unsupportive, she demanded. Joe, sitting next to her, asked, what should the values of a man be? This was the first time he had heard of this concept. The values of a man are. Summer was about to explain, but suddenly, she paused, and her mind went blank. At this moment, Shawn continued, they are to follow your wife when she goes out, obey your wife when she's wrong, obey her commands, be generous when your wife spends money, endure when your wife is angry, remember your wife's birthday, and wait when your wife puts on makeup. Joe was dumbfounded. It took him a while to recover, and he exclaimed, you remembered all that so smoothly? Without even a pause? Of course, I had a strict education. If I forget, I can't even get into bed at night. I have to sleep on the floor. Cough, 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 Gale coughed, wondering what nonsense he was spouting. Joe was even more astonished, giving thumbs up repeatedly. Amazing, truly amazing. Right, right, right. Summer nodded. Those are the right values. Mr. Wood is quite impressive to be able to recite it so easily. It seems Gale has taught you well. Good job, you're deserving of praise. Shawn smiled faintly. Thank you for the praise. With that, he stood up, wrapping his arm around Gale's waist. It's getting late, I'll take Gale home first. As for Summer, I'll leave her to you, Shawn said, looking at Joe. Gale was still a bit worried. Shouldn't we accompany Summer back? What's Joe here for then? You think he's here for comic relief? But Summer had been drinking. If Joe escorted her home and something happened in the depths of the night, what would they do? Shawn had already taken her away before Gale could dwell on it further. Turning back, all Gale saw was Summer reaching for the bottle again and Joe snatching it away from her. Chapter 1687. Darling, I'm not afraid of trouble. I'm more afraid if there was no trouble, Shawn said lazily. But isn't that bad? Do you think Summer's drunk? A little, but overall, she's still sober. So, she knows what she's doing and saying. If something really happens, it'll be because she willingly let it, Shawn replied. Many things only happen under the influence of alcohol. Many things might just naturally happen. He wondered if Summer or Joe would be the one to take the initiative. If the former, he would be disappointed in Joe. Gale wanted to look back again, feeling uneasy, only to hear Shawn say, instead of worrying about Summer, you should worry about yourself. She startled, almost losing her balance and toppling over. That was right. She drank and did not reply to his messages or answer his calls, fearing he might have a bone to pick with her. Fortunately, Shawn had been holding her tightly, securely catching her. What's the rush? We're not home yet, he said. I won't dare next time. There's a next time? Gale quickly corrected herself. No, I won't dare again. Shawn just smiled, walked to the car, and opened the door for her. He sat her in, fastened her seatbelt, and patted her head. Gale felt creeped out. Not long after the car left, Joe and Summer also came out. Get in, I'll take you home, Joe said. Summer stood in front of the car, unmoving. Your car. Right. She circled around the car, then shook her head. No, I'll take a taxi. I don't want to be with you anymore. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want to be with you. Summer stared at him. It's you every day, daytime, nighttime, in my dreams. Now that I'm back in Sea City, I want to get rid of you. Even in your dreams? Joe's heart skipped a beat. Summer nodded slightly and muttered something, but her voice was too soft for Joe to hear. He did not ask further. That mention of her dreams made him happy enough. Initially, Joe felt quite upset about her refusal to ride in his car, but now he was in a very good mood. He spoke much more gently. I'm just taking you home. It's late now, and you have been drinking. If something were to happen, Summer, what am I supposed to do? Summer looked at him steadily. May I? You're just taking me home? Yes. Summer looked at him for a while, making sure he was serious before finally giving a small pout. Well, okay then. Before getting in the car, she added, Joe, you're not allowed to do anything to me. If you dare mess around, I'll hate you. I can't stand you. I hate you the most. Chapter 1688. I promise I'm not just playing around. Joe looked at her. I want to be with you for a long time, forever and ever. So, I won't mess around. He was not after momentary pleasure. He wanted a lifetime of stability. He wondered if Summer heard him, but she lowered her head and got into the car, obediently fastening her seatbelt. The night was hazy. It was already dawn. After taking a shower, Gale climbed into bed and laid down cautiously, trying to minimize her presence. She was afraid of attracting Shawn's attention. She lay with her back to him and closed her eyes when she heard Shawn ask, Going to sleep? Good night. Shawn spoke lightly. Sobered up yet? Gale sulked. I only had a little. Why would I need to sober up? You're overthinking it. Is that so? Why are you sleeping so far away? Come over. Gale slowly moved toward him, reluctantly. Come closer. She moved a little closer. Even closer. Gale stopped moving. I'm already quite close. If I get any closer, I might as well sleep on top of you. How do you know I want you to sleep on top of me? She was speechless. Now that you know, get on it, Shawn said. Gale quickly moved closer to the edge of the bed. Who would want to sleep on him? As soon as she moved, Shawn's hands reached out, lifting her up and placing her on top of him. Gale lay on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. Can we just sleep? I'm not feeling too well, she pitifully said. Not well? Is it that time of the month? I don't know, maybe it's been too long since I've eaten in the restaurant. It was too rich, so my stomach's a bit upset. Shawn furrowed his brow slightly. Why did you eat so much knowing that? You even drank. I thought nothing would happen. I've been eating at that restaurant for years. She pouted. Maybe I'm getting old. My stomach isn't as good. Shawn suddenly remembered that she had not eaten much in the morning either. This could not continue. Let's go to the hospital tomorrow. I'll accompany you, Shawn said. Huh? Why go to the hospital? For a scan. Gale nearly jumped up. I'm just a little uncomfortable. I'm usually fine. It's not necessary to have a stomach scan, right? It would be so painful. She refused. No harm to get checked. You haven't been eating well lately. Is there anywhere else on your body that feels uncomfortable? Gale shook her head vigorously. No, I'm fine. I eat well. I'm in great shape. She thought if she said this, Shawn would feel reassured. Unexpectedly, he became even more suspicious. Get a full body checkup. It's more comprehensive. Huh? I already had a checkup this year. It's okay to have multiple checkups. Do you have too much money to waste? You can think of it that way. If it's spent on you, it's worth it, Shawn replied calmly. She raised her head, her chin poking his chest. I know my body best. Really, nothing's wrong, you're just making a mountain out of a molehill. Chapter 1689. Shawn lifted his hand and stroked her hair repeatedly. Why are you acting like a child? Even Nicole isn't as afraid of going to the hospital as you are. I've been to the hospital too many times. I do have a bit of a trauma, Gale replied. She lightly rubbed against his chest. When I lived in this small town, I didn't have time for checkups, and I was fine. How come, back in Sea City by your side, suddenly I'm treated so delicately and preciously and need so many checkups? You were always precious. Gale closed her eyes, yawning. Okay, if I still have stomach discomfort, I'll willingly go to the hospital. Her voice grew softer, gradually turning into a squeak. She was tired. After a long day, she just wanted to sleep well. Shawn's large hand combed through her long hair. Shawn. Yeah? I want to sleep. All right. Sleep. Gale mumbled, then you. Before she could finish her sentence, she was already gradually slipping into dreamland. She was really exhausted. Shawn knew what she wanted to say. How could he bear to tire her out again? Although he wished he could have her every night, it could not be too frequent. She needed time to catch her breath. Good night. Shawn turned slightly, placing her beside him, his hand resting on her waist. That night, Gale had a dream. She dreamed she was pregnant. She sat in front of the doctor, who announced it to her. When she heard it, she was stunned. Pregnant again? Yes, Mrs. Wood. You have 2 children already, right? Yes. Are you considering a third? Gale was conflicted. Children were all angels sent by God, and she still wanted them. However, she had experienced the pains of pregnancy and childbirth firsthand, so she was afraid to experience it again. 2 children were already enough, but 1 more would be nice too. What to do? To have or not to have? I plan to discuss it with my husband when I get home. Thank you, doctor, Gale said. Gale hurriedly left the doctor's office and picked up the prenatal examination form. As she was going down the stairs, she slipped and fell down the stairs. She watched as the ground got closer and closer. Ah! Gale screamed, abruptly opening her eyes. She was still gasping for breath, staring at the ceiling blankly, before realizing she was in the master bedroom of Temperley Hall. It was all a dream. She did not fall, and she was not pregnant. Gale, what's wrong? Shawn quickly came out of the bathroom, looking worried. What happened? He heard her scream. Gale shook her head. Nothing. I just had a dream. She had meant to say it was a nightmare, but on second thought, in the dream, she was pregnant, which could be considered a good thing, not a nightmare. Dreaming again? What did you dream about? Shawn asked. She paused for a few seconds. I dreamed I fell down the stairs. It scared me. Right before I hit the ground, I woke up. Gale sat up. Chapter 1690. She still had not fully recovered from that dream. How could she suddenly dream about being pregnant? What was going on? Thinking about it, the chance of Gale being pregnant was quite high. Shawn had not missed a night with her, and last night was a rare night where she got some peaceful sleep. Did he take precautions? Gale was puzzled. She did not know if he did or not. Every time the lights were turned off, she did not dare to look at him directly. How would she know these details? Shawn! Gale suddenly called out. Shawn, who had just entered the bathroom, walked out again. What's up? You. She hesitated. Did you, at that time, take precautions? Shawn raised an eyebrow. That time? Yes, that time. Which time? She bit her lip. Stop pretending. Shawn finally understood her expression. Precautions? Yes. Why are you suddenly asking this? Just asking, did you or didn't you? He asked, don't you know? I don't know, I didn't stare at you. She felt embarrassed. Scenes of their carnal embrace were already flooding her mind. Shawn still did not answer directly, instead asking, do you want me to take precautions, or don't you? Gale was caught off guard. It felt like when the doctor asked her if she planned to have a 3rd child. She wanted to, but she did not. It was a dilemma. Is this question so hard to answer, Gale? Gale thought seriously, if we don't plan to have children, then we must definitely take precautions. We should prepare for pregnancy in advance if we plan to have them. We can't have unplanned pregnancies happening and then give birth randomly. Gale continued, when I was pregnant with Joshua and Nicole, you intentionally didn't take precautions. Now that we have 2 children, you wouldn't resort to such means again, would you? Shawn still did not give a direct answer. Gale, can you still have children? She had initially miscarried 1 child. Later, she had twin pregnancies, which were harder than other pregnancies. The pain was something Shawn did not want her to endure. It was too exhausting. He was already content to have Joshua and Nicole. Gale was getting a bit anxious. Just answer me, did you or didn't you take precautions? I did. When it comes to your health, Gale, how could I take the risk? Shawn said. If she got pregnant and did not want the child, how much damage would an abortion cost to her? How could he bear to let her suffer that? If she gave birth, she would have to endure a year of suffering with 10 months of pregnancy and then postpartum recovery. Shawn would definitely need her consent before he dared or was willing to let her get pregnant. That's good. Gale sighed in relief. You scared me. Shawn looked at her. You don't want a third child? Not exactly. How did they circle back to this question from her dream? Gale scratched her head, fell back onto the bed, grabbed the covers, and covered her head. Let me calm down. Shawn was very puzzled. She had a dream of falling down the stairs, so why did she suddenly ask about taking precautions?